Welcome to Elected, a podcast for women in and around politics. I'm your host, Sarah Elder-Chamanara, and this week our very first guest is Annamie Paul, the federal leader of the Green Party of Canada. I'm so incredibly honored that you agreed to be Elected's very first guest. And we'll get into it, but just very quickly, I want to, in the spirit of reconciliation, acknowledge that I'm based in Calgary, where I live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation, Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. So welcome to Annamie. You have an amazing background, which I feel like actually not enough Canadians know about. So in my own learning more about you, I've been just so impressed, and from your life about working in Ontario as a page in the legislature. You have a Bachelor of Laws from the University of Ottawa, a Master of Public Affairs from Princeton, and you founded the Canadian Centre for Political Leadership and worked in civic engagement and international affairs. You've lived abroad. You're a mom. You're now the leader of the Green Party of Canada. You're seemingly in all places doing all things. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Sarah, and congratulations on your new podcast.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it. So, and I'm just so grateful that you agreed to be the first guest. So let's just get into it. So, when I learned that you worked as a page in the Ontario legislature, how old were you and what was that experience like?
This is a longstanding program in the legislature in Ontario. It is focused on children between that are normally grade 7 and 8, so between the age of 12 to 14. And it's just a great initiative. It's something that allows youngsters to get an upfront and really personal exposure to politics at a very important, I think, formative age. Certainly it was for me. It also had the added bonus of giving me the chance to meet other kids my age from around Ontario, places that I hadn't had a chance to ever visit. It's a very big province, and that was a really great experience as well. So, for me, definitely, I know that having that experience gave me a very early appreciation for the important work that happens in our legislatures and the kind of really tangible decisions that are taken there that have an impact on people's lives.
Were your parents political, or was it just you? Or I know I've read that you also have a sister. So how did you get from, just being a kid to being a kid applying to be a page in the legislature?
Well, my mom was a teacher, an elementary school teacher here in Ontario, in Toronto. And, my family in general really focus and continues to focus on public service in one form or another. So I try to remember how I first heard about this program, and I'm not sure if it was my mom or if it was a teacher, but I was definitely a kid that was interested in politics. I was definitely interested in public policy. It just seemed like a great experience. So, you're really lucky when you're a kid if you manage to have some adults in your life that are able to help you match your interests with the opportunities that are out there. And my mom was really great about that. She's still great about that.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. Yeah, I can kind of relate. I kind of wish we had been in the same class at school then, although I grew up in BC. Because for me, it wasn't that my family was political. It was, I had a grade 5 teacher and she had us watch segments of CBC News. And so it would be like, this is what's happening in Canada, but then this is also what's happening overseas. And then she also, it was during in the lead up to a federal election. So I had my own copy of the Red Book at the time, which is for a grade 5 student, that is very intensely nerdy.
Yeah.
But she also had us, once the election was over, she had us memorize the federal cabinet. So like, those names are like forever imprinted on my brain. So we're lucky
Oh,
that those
so you
people
have to
are.
name a couple of them. I guess you need to do that.
So John
That was
Manning,
coming.
yeah, John Manning, Paul Martin, obviously, Jean Chrétien. Those would be the Sheila Copps. Those were
That's pretty
the
good. That's pretty
yeah, it's
good.
not bad, right? I need
That's
a little
pretty
bit of a
good. No,
refresher. Yeah, it
but
was a long time.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right though that just I know how special it can be to have a teacher tell you the right thing at the right time and
Yeah.
how much it can influence your future path. And it's one of the reasons that I still, whenever I get an invitation from a group of students, I always do my very best to accept. And it's, just between me and them. I don't post about it on social media or
Yeah.
anything like that. But I remember that I had a couple teachers like the one that you're describing. And, had they not been there or said that thing at that moment, I might not be doing what I'm doing now. So yeah, it's, just a lot of respect to the teachers, and the educators and the mentors. Yeah. Their work
100%.
is very important.
I've actually tried to track down that teacher. I've tried contacting the school board and reaching out to former classmates, and she's remarried and changed her name, but I'm still on a mission to like be, you don't understand actually the impact that you've had on my life. So
well, maybe
like,
she's listening. Maybe she'll be listening.
Hopefully,
and,
I'm not sure if she's into podcasts, but yeah. So, okay. You represent such a great, you represent to me a hope for a better politics, a better Canada. You're the first Black Canadian woman, the first Jewish woman, the second Jewish party leader, and I didn't do the research, but who was the first?
Stephen Lewis. Sorry, not Stephen Lewis. I keep saying it's, but to be fair, it's his father. So David Lewis. Okay. And I think he left that role in 1975. So it has been,
it's been
45 years. It's still been a really long time, but he was the first, and so I'm the second. So it's been quite a while. But David Lewis was the first with the NDP.
Yeah, and you're currently the only woman. So that's something that I want to see change. I'm not sure if you want to see more women like leaders on the debate stage, but I definitely do.
I sure do. And yes, I mean, it's not just, it's not just that I'm the only woman leading a federal party that has seats in parliament. Yeah. But out of our 10 provinces and 3 territories, we only have one woman leading, just one. After that hope that we had there for a little while in the 2000s that we might reach parity. And we did for a little while. We're pretty close to it. It's really dissipated. And so when you look at the very highest levels of politics all across the country, you see very, very few women, and that is definitely a loss to us all.
100%. I totally agree. And what are you doing as the leader of the Green Party of Canada? Are you on a specific mission then to recruit more women candidates, or is that something? So how are you going to make this a part of your time as your job as leader?
Yep, absolutely. This is something that needs to be done proactively. It's really clear that if it was going to happen organically, that it would have happened a long time ago. I mean, there's no shortage of incredibly talented women who are very accomplished in their fields of expertise, in their professions, educationally. So clearly there are barriers. There are things that are holding women back from having these roles. And so, yes, every single political party has a big part to play in that when we're talking about provincial and federal politics, because we know that when women run and when they run in winnable seats, they're actually slightly more electable than men. So it's nothing about people being hesitant about voting for women. It's about making sure that women have those opportunities and access to them. So in our party, we launched Time to Run, which is a national recruitment campaign seeking exactly to make ourselves more available to people from underrepresented groups that are interested in running for our party in the next election. I know that you and I have had exposure to politics, but There's no question that most people have not. It is a very unfamiliar world. It's very opaque. How you get involved is it's just not clear to people.
Right.
And so we're trying to just make it as transparent as possible. We're trying to facilitate their involvement as much as possible. And that's something that we're going to do throughout this recruitment campaign. And every single step of the way, in every way that we can think of, we're trying to make ourselves, again, more actively approachable and doing the active outreach to try to break down some of these barriers to participation.
Yeah. What do you think is the number one reason women don't just take up that space in politics, in your mind?
Well, the first thing that I did after graduate school was to come back and to found an organization, a nonprofit, really seeking to understand and answer that question, and then also to design strategies around it. There's not just one, but I would say there's a sort of a small suite of barriers. One absolutely is funding, financing. It's increasingly expensive to run a credible campaign. If you're seeking a nomination in a winnable riding, that means that it's almost always going to be competitive. It means it's going to cost you money to win that nomination. If you're running to lead a party, it's very, very, very expensive. And so a lot of women don't know where that money is going to come from. They really hesitate around fundraising,
asking for it and then getting it, right? Because of the networks.
It's the networks, absolutely. And women are great networkers. Women have those networks. It's just, again, if you're not from the world of politics, it's hard to figure out how you activate that network around fundraising. It's hard to know. It's hard to feel comfortable. Also, I mean, a lot of women don't like asking for money. They don't like asking for help, and it feels like that. And so that's something they have to overcome. And it's the same thing with the human resources. As much as you need money, you need a big team of people also that are willing to volunteer their time to help you and support you. And that's hard to ask for, even from your best friends. It's still hard to say, look, on a Saturday afternoon, I know you could be relaxing on a patio somewhere with your friends or your family or a nice book, but instead I want you to spend 3 hours making phone calls for me.
Let's call strangers together and ask them if they will support me.
Exactly. And it is something that people absolutely feel honored to do for people that they care about, but it's still hard to ask them. And so that for me was something I really had to get comfortable with, because there's no way around it. You have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to ask people to support you financially. And you have to believe that it's all worth it. So those are things. And then, of course, the usual, being a parent. When women run in politics, they're thinking of the village. How's it going to affect my kids? If I have kids, my partner, how's it going to affect all of the other people in the community that count on me? Because chances are, if you're interested in running for politics, you're already quite involved in the community. And so these are the things that women really do a lot of soul searching about. And certainly I did.
Did you have a conversation with your kids about wanting to run for the leadership of the Green Party? And what was their response like?
I did indeed. They're older, and so it's a different conversation than had they been younger, where it mostly would have been me explaining why I would be less available to them in the future. But my kids are, at the time that I ran for the leadership, they were 16 and 19. And so they're 17 and 20 now. And they were all in, they were, and it was such a special experience, Sarah. There are many unexpected things that come out of a political journey. Some, not so great, but some things that are really special. And one of them was having the chance to work really, really closely with my sons and with my partner on this common family project, which is really what it was. And they helped with my social media. They helped me to tape videos. They offered strategy advice. I mean, it was really seeing my kids come into their own. And that was a really, really wonderful feeling.
Do you think that either of them have any political ambitions? Or is this something they want to stay out of?
Well, they've heard me say a million times that I view politics as a vocation. It's something that really takes you really have to give a lot to. It's very hard to find a lot of equilibrium when you're doing it. It's very intense. It comes with comes with a lot of pluses, but also a lot of sacrifices. So I see it as a vocation and a time limited one. And there are some people that I think it's great if they enter politics very young and they're enthusiastic and they know what they're in it for. But then they should leave. I don't think they should make a career out of it. I think that there are a couple of exceptions to that rule, of course, but in general, as someone who, worked as an intern in the Ontario legislature, and as I said, as you mentioned, I've had all these early intensive exposures. You could really spot the difference between the politicians that were there for, let's say, 8 years, a couple of terms, and the ones who were just lifers and had never known anything but politics, never had any other job but politics. In general, there's always exceptions. So for my kids, I hope they have full lives and do a lot of different things. And if they want to do this, that they go in knowing what they're hoping to accomplish, what their contribution is going to be. And when they're done and they go and do something else.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually, I mean, I strongly believe that life experience that you can bring from a life before politics, that I think makes you a better decision maker when you are at those tables, rather than having only been potentially in politics your whole life. Because 100%. It just becomes just, like, oh, another day in the legislature. And you're like, well, no, it's actually a very special experience and it's a privilege to be there. And, what are you bringing to the table on a daily basis for your constituents?
100%. It becomes less of a game and more of a, again, as you said, a serious, solemn, sacred contribution. If you have had a life outside of it. And I think it's easier to keep your compass and to remember who you're there for when you have been one of the people doing something outside of politics. So I absolutely agree with you. So as much as they love it and they clearly have talents that I think would make them great staffers and great policy analysts, I am really hoping that they do lots and lots of things. And then if they decide to do this one day, wonderful. But I want to make sure that, at least they're doing it for the right reasons. And as you said, they have something to offer.
Yeah. Well, and also you've created a legacy for them, because if one of them ever does run, it would be a story, because they would always be the child of Annamie Paul, the first, the former leader or current leader of the Green Party of Canada. So yeah, that's something big. So we unfortunately don't have a lot of time to talk today, but there are so many things that I do want to talk to you about, and I'm just trying to pick my most top priorities. So, do you think there's going to be a federal election? And when do you anticipate, if there is going to be one, when do you think it'll be called? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there definitely will be one. It's just $1 million question when it will be. Things swing back and forth. I think that one of the biggest indications that we're going to be in an election sooner rather than later is just the loss of the kind of collaboration and cooperative spirit that you need to have to maintain a minority parliament. It's and there's lots of, you can see, and anyone who's closely involved in politics can see all of the telltale signs, related to an election ad buys, and there's a lot of pre-election posturing going on as well, unfortunately. But the pandemic is really the big wild card. I really hope that all of the parties are in agreement that a pandemic and a third wave of the pandemic is not the time to have an election. And that I think we're months and months away from the time when we have enough stability. So, we're going to just keep trying to work with all the parties to make sure that the things that people need today, there are still people that have needs related to the pandemic today that are not being met. We want to make sure those needs are met. And we're going to just keep talking about the same policies we would, whether this is an election year or not.
Mm-hmm. So you ran in a by-election not that long ago, in the seat in Toronto Center seat vacated by Bill Morneau,
Mm-hmm.
and you came second. And I was looking at the margins, and um, if one of the other parties, for example, had been like, you know what, she's the leader of a federal party, we're going to say, we're going to back down a little bit. There could have been some wiggle room, in my opinion, for you to actually have won. So you're running in Toronto. You will run in Toronto Center again. Elizabeth May, the former leader, had, she tried for a long time to win a seat and then ended up having to move to BC. But I have also read a quote you have said, where did it go? That I stick and I stay. So how long would you stick and stay in Toronto Center if things don't go the way you want them to?
But they will.
I like your optimism.
No, we first me, this is a community I care a lot about. I think that there are quite a few people, had they known that we were going to do so well and to come so close, would have voted for us. One of the challenges that the Green Party has faced, not everywhere, but in many places federally, are people who are really attracted to our policies, but they don't want to feel like their vote is just a protest vote. Mm-hmm. They want to feel like they're actually contributing to electing whomever, or even more so, keeping someone out. And so, the power of people having seen in the by-election that we actually came close, and that actually, it would have made a difference, had they voted the way that they wanted to. That makes a difference. We ran a really positive campaign, which really appealed to people as well, and we're going to keep doing that. And, I think that the pandemic and it's been 6 more months of pandemic has also really reminded people about how important it is to have a true champion, someone who, again, is there for them and has more freedom to be very honest about the needs that they see and to work on behalf of their community. So we're really running to win. We're running to win. We've already started running our campaign. And I can't think beyond that. The only way that you do something historic, like winning the leadership of a party, is by thinking of that, that objective and what you need to do to fulfill that, and not thinking beyond to the what ifs.
Yeah.
That does not, at least for me, it doesn't work.
If you were to, okay, so you have a relatively small caucus. If you were to think, I want to pick up a couple of seats in the next election, where would they be?
All over the country. We're really encouraged by what we've seen. We are separate from the Green parties in the provinces. They have their own structures and whatnot, but we're definitely cousins. We hold the opposition in Prince Edward Island, and we came second in a number of seats out there. New Brunswick as well. We have several members of the MLA out there, and we did very well in a number of seats. We're really encouraged, of course, by what we're seeing in Ontario. Me being the leader and also coming from Ontario and planning to run in Ontario. And then, of course, British Columbia, there were a number of seats. We came a very, very close second. So we're looking to be competitive all over the country. We're looking to pick up seats all over the country. And, we're really encouraged to see the new places that we've been growing in over the past year and a half since the last election.
Well, I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity for the Green Party to be a more significant voice. Not that you aren't already, but for more people to pay attention to what you're saying. And I'm optimistic to hear what your platform looks like in the next election. But so we're sadly out of time, but I have one more question and then I'll let you go because I know that you are a very busy person. So I remember right after you won the leadership of the party, you were doing a press conference. I don't know exactly where, but a reporter asked, what you feel will be different, what you're bringing to Canadian politics. And you made this gesture around your face using your hands like a box. And for me, that was a really important, that touched me, that I was like, yes, it is, it's, you have to, there's the idea around, you have to see it to be it, right? So what, you know, the it's like, it's kind of unfair because the enormity of what's on your shoulders in some ways, of being the only federal party leader right now and the first Black Canadian woman to be a federal party leader. But like, what is your message to girls who see themselves in you, and you know, what do you say to them to create this capacity or understanding or belief that they can be anything that they want to be, and when they see you, that there is a place for them in politics as well?
Well, you said it really well. That is just a very big part of it. That is the expression. You can't be what you don't see, and that's mostly correct, but not totally. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So it's just harder. It's harder to imagine yourself in a role that you've never seen anyone like you in before. And so we know that just being in those roles, in those spaces, is very powerful without even saying a word. Being there has changed things for women, for people, not just women of color, not just young girls of color, not even just women, but every time there is a first, there's someone else who thinks I would be a first, and firsts are still possible. And that's really a powerful thing. And particularly at this moment where I think we need to believe that things that we haven't done before can be done, that we still have extraordinary accomplishments and achievements in our future, that history can still be made. And so that without saying a word is something that I'm really proud and honored to be a part of that. And I know that changes things. And then with the rest, as I said, and coming back to one of your earlier questions, consciously doing all that I can in my role to make it easier for the next person. It has to be conscious. It has to be intentional, because we've seen that it does take work, and it's going to continue to take work. So every single one of us that has a platform, that has, the privilege of having power or leverage to make things easier, really should be doing that as often as possible. So yeah, I'm proud to be history, because it means no one has to do that again. But I know enough to know that it doesn't mean that it's not going to be years and years before someone like me is in this role again without the work.
Yeah.
So come on shows like yours, and encourage people and encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. These are the ways that we make the permanent change.
Yeah. And I want to get to the day when we're not counting like she's the first, the second, or the third. We don't do that because there have literally been hundreds of years of old white men in politics. We don't say he was the first or the second or the third. We need to get to a point where like it's just like we've become the norm in politics.
That's right.
And we don't have to count.
That's right. Well, young white men too, it's yes. But what we want is a parliament. We want legislatures. We want city councils that are as diverse as the communities that they represent. And we want that because it is, a powerful symbol, but also because we know it creates better public policy. We also know that it's what strengthens our democracy. It is just something that is just a tremendous win. And for a country like Canada, we need to make sure that we're tapping into that entire wealth of experience and perspectives and knowledge. That's really one of our biggest assets. So absolutely, I would love to be running against, and really by all rights in a city like Toronto. I mean, every single person that I run against should be a person of color. It would be wonderful to have more ridings where every single candidate from all of the different parties were women. Absolutely, that's what we should be working toward. And I'm looking forward to that day.
Well, I am 100% of you putting this into action in the Green Party. And I'm so incredibly honored that you took the time to talk with me today. And I cannot wait to see the change and how you shake up Canadian politics going forward, because I think you have actually put, you are one of the contributions to cracking that hardest glass ceiling and electing a female prime minister in Canada and seeing that change that we need to see. So I'm just very, very excited to see your journey in politics and to support you. I unfortunately live unfortunately / fortunately, I live in Alberta. So, but the Green Party candidates here are really strong. And so I'm just really excited to see what happens. So thank you again for joining me today. I know that you're very busy, and I would love to talk with you again in the future, maybe post-election, or just, whenever you can find a half hour of your time, we can continue this conversation, because there were so many things that I didn't get to cover with you that I wanted to. But I just wish you all the best in the election, when it ever is called, and just in your day-to-day of political life.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I wish you the same as well. Good luck with your journey as well. You have a lot of very exciting things on the go too. So thank you so much. And thank you for offering this platform to, women to share their experiences. And I'm looking forward to hearing from some of the women that you interview after me. So congratulations and thank you, and looking forward to chatting again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye. This was Elected. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode with Annamie Paul, the federal leader of the Green Party of Canada, and me, Sarah Elder-Chamanara, as we discuss women in and around politics and everything related to it. Thank you for tuning in to our very first episode, and watch out for news on our next episode guest.